Exclusively.
What is this?
77 WABC.
The deals are so bad, so disgraceful, that I actually think they're putting other countries ahead of our own. On trade, we are now... You people don't stop. So I used to say, when I used to hear this chant, let's just win on November 8th. But now we've won. Right? We've won. Big league. I'll tell you, tough people in Wisconsin, fellas.
Lock her up, lock her up, lock her up. That was a chant again yesterday. Donald Trump on his thank you victory tour in Wisconsin. The fans out there, the revelers, yelling about Hillary Clinton, talking about trade deals.
I think they were just waxing nostalgic.
I think they were.
I don't think the mob really wants her head at this point, unless she committed some crimes.
Which she may have done.
She may have done.
She may have done. But either way, it's we'll kind of past that. It's more about the trade deals and moving forward and what Donald Trump is going to do and the stock market and the economy and all that stuff seems to be very exciting right now. A lot of optimism, and that's why our next guest is a perfect guest for today. He is, in fact, a star here at WABC, CNBC, everybody's favorite, including Gasparino, Gasparino, I should say, in today's New York Post. Larry Kudlow. Larry, welcome back to the Bernie and Sid Show. How are you, pal?
Hey, thank you very, very much. Appreciate it.
Gasparino, running about you today, seemed upset that Gary Cohn got that job with Donald Trump in that position and not you. Made the point that Cohn was a guy that backed the Clinton Foundation and really spit in the face of everything Donald Trump wants to do. And he did make the point that you would have been the perfect guy for that job. So how about that?
Well, it was a very interesting column by Charlie, and he's a great friend of mine. I can't comment. I don't really know Gary Cohn. I don't believe I've ever met him. And as far as the narrative Charlie outlined with respect to Obama and Clinton, I don't know that. Charlie's a great reporter, so I'm sure that's true, but I just don't know that. And I've had a lot of conversations with Mr. Trump and his top tier, and I'm kind of old school. I just don't like to talk about that.
No, that's fair. But did you want that? The director of National Council, Economic Council, did you want that? Is that something you wanted, or you'd be happy with just basically anything inside the Trump cabinet?
We will see. We will see. That's really.
He's not talking about it. Says Larry Kudlow is not. But
I don't like to talk about my own story. I'd rather talk about your story.
Let me toot your horn a little bit via this column from Charles Gasparino in the New York Post this morning. He says that you were you're a stark contrast to this guy Cohn. For the he calls you a free market evangelist, and that the optimism of the plans that you put forth inspired essentially the market to rise to 20,000, which it's near right now. That's what Charlie Gasparino says about you, Larry Kudlow.
Well, look, I always figured, I never understood the stock market until it finally turned, because I always figured that Trump's plans to slash taxes across the board, including small and large business tax rates, plus the rollback of costly regulations, would be a tremendous shot in the arm to the economy and to business profits and so forth. So I'm not surprised at the stock market's reaction. I guess I'm just surprised it took so long, but maybe, it took election night to prove that Mr. Trump is going to win. His policies are pro-growth. He's got the biggest tax cuts since Ronald Reagan, and actually, he's in the same tradition. I wrote a book just recently called JFK and the Reagan Revolution, where I point out that JFK was actually the first supply-side tax cutter, and that Reagan followed in his footsteps 20 years ago. And I think Trump is following in JFK and Reagan's footsteps, and it's very pro-growth, and the economy is going to come alive. And I think that's the message of the stock market.
Well, then, if you don't mind, Larry, for the people who are not as market savvy as you are out there, take us back to the detractors, the folks that said when Donald Trump takes over, this thing's going to crash, another recession is going to come our way. Well, what was the basis of that opinion?
I just think it was, you have some never Trump people, and you had all these left-wing Democrats backing Hillary. And I just think those were random attacks against Donald Trump. Nothing to do with his policies. In fact, they never hardly even mentioned his policies, mostly because Hillary Clinton didn't have any economic policies. I mean, her policy was tax the rich. What is that? No growth there. I thought America liked to reward success rather than punish it. Remember life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness? Remember that? That
Yes.
was, by the way, the Declaration of Independence. I've been around so long. I was actually there. I was the messenger during that period.
Right.
So I just thought those were random attacks at Trump for no good reason at all. They never focused on his issues. He talked about it. They didn't listen. I did help craft that, and I'm proud of it, and I think Trump's going to be a great president. So that's what stocks are telling you right now. And, I would say to investors, frankly, stay with it. I mean, you're going to have corrections. There's no question about that. Stocks don't go up in a straight line forever. But I think if Mr. Trump gets his policies implemented, and he's obviously going to have a very favorable Congress to work with, these tax cuts and regulatory rollbacks could give us 4 or even 5% economic growth, I don't know, for 4 or 5 years, and then level off at 3 or 3.5. So if you own an exchange-traded fund, if you own S&P indexes, okay, stay in them.
Right.
Stay in them. Right? There'll be a correction, but don't get cold feet. Just stay with it, because we're entering a brand-new period of economic growth, which we haven't really had in 16 years.
Explain to the listeners, too, why on top of the tax cuts, one of the reasons why the market is doing well, people have confidence, why infrastructure plays a major role in this, too.
Well, I think infrastructure will be very helpful. You got to be careful on infrastructure, because you need some reforms. I mean, a lot of these infrastructure bills wind up being pork barrel bills, for various Democratic labor union supporters across the country. On the other hand, Trump will not allow that, because he's a very cost-conscious guy, being in the construction business, for heaven's sakes. And let's not have the prevailing wage. Let's not dictate work hours. Let's not dictate minimum wages, for example. Let's do this efficiently. Let the states and localities do it. And by the by, most of this stuff can be done by the private sector companies themselves, particularly in energy, okay? We need west to east pipelines. We need the Keystone Pipeline. We need the North Dakota Pipeline. We need to get the oil and natural gas to the East Coast, so heating prices come down, gasoline prices come down, and so forth and so on. Now, that's my kind of infrastructure. So I think there'll be a combination of both, but you just have to be very cost-conscious here. That's the key. And let the private sector do most of it. Most of these companies want to do it themselves.
Going back to being bearish on the stock market, Larry Kudlow.
Wait, not me.
No. But I mean, before Trump was elected, those people predicting doom and gloom, the critics, they did cite Trump's what they would call his protectionist proclivities, saying that the tariffs, et cetera, would lead to rising prices. And Trump still is he says he's going to engage in some, some protectionist. He's going to impose tariffs. I mean, could that potentially damage the market and the economy in general?
Well, look, my reading of Mr. Trump is that he sees big flaws, really anti-American flaws, in a lot of these trading deals. And I happen to agree with that. I think the route he's going to take is going to be to redraw these deals, okay, and act in the interest of the American economy and the American workforce. And I think he has a point. You've got tax issues, NAFTA. You've got world government, international courts presiding over some of these deals, like the Pacific Trading Deal. That stuff's got to be changed. I think he intends to change it, and I think that's a constructive way of going about it. So we should trade. He himself regards himself as a free trader, but a fair trader, and these deals have to be done as such that they are in American interest. Now, one last point on this real quick. I'm hoping that one of the first things he does is start up a great free trade agreement with Britain. All right, because Trump was for Brexit. I was for Brexit. I call it Magna Carta 2.0, British independence. And I think it would be a terrific signal that he is for trade, negotiate with Britain. They are cousins. their law, our law stems from their law. We have private property rights, and I'd go for that.
Yep.
I think that'd be a very positive thing.
All right, Gary Cohn, by the way, not for Brexit. I hate to keep bringing him up. Anyway, Larry Kudlow, our good friend, the great Larry Kudlow. Hey,
being as humble and low-key as I
no,
can.
you're doing great. It's our job. It's me and Bernie's job to take shots at the other guy. Hey, tell me this. What do you think of the appointment of Linda McMahon, small business?
I love it. I just love it, okay? She is a great pal of mine. She and I talked about this SBA story. She's going to do a couple things there that are going to be so helpful. Number one, she is going to cut costs and staff throughout that agency because it's overbloated. It has been for many years. Nobody knows what the hell these bureaucrats do. Secondly, SBA can be helpful in terms of dispersing funds as long as it's monitored very carefully for the little companies that get the money. That's a good thing, not a bad thing. Now, I am not a big supporter of government subsidies, okay, but there can be sort of an SBA bank to get some of these firms off their feet. And I think that's what Linda wants to do. Obviously, she and her husband started a very small company, which has become a very large company, the WWE, and I think they know what they're doing. So it's not a forever job. It's not going to be just handing out money. It's going to be carefully monitored. But I say, absolutely well done, Linda McMahon.
Larry Kudlow, economic analyst, conservative commentator, Trump advisor, and WABC radio star. Larry, listen, front page of the New York, the New York Times, yes. As Exxon head, Rex W. Tillerson put companies' needs over U.S. interests. Isn't that what a CEO of a company is supposed to do, is put their company's needs over anybody's interest?
Well, yeah. I mean, he's running the largest, I don't know, is it the largest or one of the largest companies in the world? I mean, ExxonMobil is larger than most countries, isn't it? I mean, Look, if this guy, I have met Mr. Tillerson at various business roundtable events that I moderate sometimes. He is just first rate. And he knows more people around the world, heads of state and so forth. He's been negotiating with them for years on behalf of the ExxonMobil shareholders. That's what he's supposed to do. Now, the point here is he will negotiate for the United States of America just as tough as he negotiated for Exxon, right? The USA now becomes his principal client, and you can bet that he will be just as tough as nails when he does so. All this ankle-biting and nitpicking about Tillerson is really aimed at Donald Trump. That's what this is all about. And you know why? You know why? Because the left-wing Democratic Party, first of all, doesn't like capitalism. Second of all, they have no foreign policy. They want to attack anything Trump says all the time. And incidentally, all these experts have come out for Tillerson. Donald Rumsfeld, Robert Gates, Condoleezza Rice, they know something about international diplomacy. I think it's an inspired choice. I really do, and I'm 100% in favor of it.
So you're saying that
they're attacking Trump.
No, they are attacking Trump. They are. But for the folks that are attacking him, we know what their motivation is. You're right. There are sore losers who are attacking Trump. But is there anything to the fear that between Tillerson, even Manafort, gone not that long ago, and other folks in and around Donald Trump, this love affair, these relationships with Russia, is there anything to that in fact we should not be so happy about here?
Well, look, it's not a love affair. It's just.
Well, listen, Tillerson and Putin were friends.
It's not a love affair. I mean, you're thinking he's like Sumner Redstone or something. Okay, believe me.
That's funny.
That's funny. Sorry, I shouldn't.
No, that's funny. But listen, Tillerson and Putin, it was beyond a business relationship. I mean, the guy gave him a friendship award. They were buddies.
First of all, it's not a mortal sin to make a tough deal with Russia in America's interests.
Okay.
It's not a mortal sin. Now, we will have to judge. I understand the point. We will have to judge it as it goes along. But here, too, Trump was so misinterpreted, misunderstood during the campaign. What he is trying to say is, we, the U.S., would rather not go to war, having all these wars, almost none of which turned out well for us. And therefore, if a negotiated treaty is possible, then Trump, would go for it. if you walk away, if it's not good and it's not possible, Trump himself has said he will walk away from the table. And he will instruct Mr. Tillerson to do likewise. You know, there's an old story here. It's a great story. Just give me 20 seconds here. When George Shultz was Secretary of State for Reagan, Shultz probably the best Secretary of State we've had in 100 years in this country, Shultz would bring in new ambassadors. You know, they're going off to some godforsaken country. And he'd say to the ambassador, what is your primary point of interest here? And the ambassador would point to their new country. And Shultz would take him over to his little globe in the corner of his office, and he would point to the United States. And he would say, this is your primary interest.
Yes.
Now, I believe
Tillerson
will act accordingly.
Absolutely. Great story. And finally, Larry, I believe part of the optimism with the stock market is also that we now, with the election of Donald Trump, we can exploit our vast natural resources, gas, oil, coal, going to lift all these stupid suicidal regulations and become energy independent, a pro-America energy policy. I think that explains a lot.
That's a key point. By the way, it's a key point for the economy. It's a key point for consumers. They'll get lower prices. It's a key point for manufacturing. It's a key point for the infrastructure we talked about. The pipelines have to be put in. It's a very big deal. Trump has said this from day one. He's not opposed, if you guys want to have a little wind thing in your office, where you turn on,
go for it.
The wind will come flowing out and will heat you or cool you or whatever.
Get your solar panels.
Right. If you want to put solar panels, although I work in that studio, I wish you wouldn't. But if you want to put solar panels in there, I'm cool with that. But do not subsidize them with taxpayer dollars. The Energy Department is not a hedge fund, okay, which is the way Obama played it. The Energy Department is supposed to increase America's energy in the long run. Trump's been great on that, and he's been great really right through. And, of course, the enviros who populate the Democratic Party. I mean, Bernie knows these people very well. Yeah. He has a lot of Democratic friends out there.
Big time. We smoke pot together.
And the enviros don't want any of this to happen. Yeah. So, of course, they're attacking it. And my pal Rick Perry, Governor Rick Perry of Texas, longtime friend of mine, is going to do a great job as the Energy Secretary because he knows exactly how to do it. And I just have to finish. You guys great with me. You got to tell me what to do. You guys are going to what? You're going to take off and have these 3-month vacations, and I'm hitting for you in a couple of Mondays. I don't know what to do.
Oh, is that right? You're filling in for us?
Jill's got to tell me something. How do I do this?
Oh, you're going to be great.
It's not possible to replace you.
Can you say the word ass?
Yeah, you got to curse. You got to curse a little bit.
You got to talk like that,
right? And by the way, now that you brought up some of the Redstone,
talk about shaving your private parts.
I do that. So Larry, every Thursday at 3:30, I shave my privates.
The kids call TMI.
Poor Larry Kudlow, let me just apologize right now. Look, a dignified guy like Larry Kudlow. And listen, thanks for appearing.
We love you.
And explaining things to us dummies here. We appreciate it, Larry Kudlow, and wish you well. Hope you get a job with the Trump administration, actually.
Thank you. I love it. Thanks for having me.
You did, as always, Larry, great job. Yes. Thank you. Thank you. Such a great guest.
Nice guy.
And great guy.
I can't believe Sid just did that.
Yeah, Larry, I shave my balls every Thursday. What do you think about that?
Hey. Bernie and Sid, 1-800-848-922. Back after this.
77 WABC. Traffic and Transit.
Reports of an accident in Hempstead on the Southern State Parkway eastbound at the Meadow